You ever get that feeling like just scrolling through the news or even checking messages? It's like walking through a minefield.
Oh, yeah.
It's negativity everywhere you look, arguments, a flood of information, Overwhelming, honestly. And it's probably part of why you're here for this deep dive with us.
For sure.
Maybe looking for a little calm in the storm.
Right.
Or ways to communicate better.
Yeah.
More positively in your own life.
Absolutely.
Well, today we're going deep on some fascinating stuff from a source you might not expect.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Pope Francis.
The Pope. Interesting choice.
Now, it might seem odd turning to the Pope for advice on communication.
Yeah. Not the first person who comes to mind.
But he's got some seriously insightful perspectives. Really challenging, especially for our digital age.
I'm ready to be challenged.
Good, because one of the first things that hit me reading his message was this stark warning about how easily any communication can be weaponized.
Weaponized.
He uses this really vivid image, says words can become like razors, capable of inflicting deep wounds.
Wow, that's powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
Gets to the core of his worry about how fear, anger, manipulation, those are often used to grab your attention, control the narrative.
It's true. You see that everywhere these days.
And it's not just outright aggression either. He talks about this thing he calls programmed dispersion of attention.
Programmed. What was it? Dispersion?
Yeah, programmed dispersion of attention.
Okay, I gotta admit, that's a new one for me. What's he talking about here?
Basically, he's arguing that digital platforms, all driven by, market forces and algorithms.
Okay, gotta keep people clicking.
Exactly. They're fragmenting our attention, making it harder and harder to focus on what really matters. Think about your own experience. How often are you just mindlessly scrolling social media, bombarded by notifications?
Oh, all the time. It's a constant stream.
Jumping from one headline to the next, not really absorbing anything.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that.
No.
But what's the danger in that? I mean, isn't that just how things are now?
Well, the danger, as the Pope sees it, is this constant fragmentation. He calls it this atomization of interests.
Atomization, like we're being broken down into smaller and smaller pieces.
Right, and it erodes our sense of community, makes us more likely to see others as enemies. Instead of having thoughtful debate.
Yeah.
We're quick to judge, quick to react, dismiss anyone who doesn't agree with us 100%.
It's like we're being programmed to be divided.
Kind of unsettling when you think about it that way.
It really is.
So how do we break out of this cycle? Does the Pope offer any solutions?
He does. And it might surprise you. Hope.
Hope. But isn't that a little naive?
Not the kind of hope he's talking about. He describes it as a courageous choice. A risk even. One that demands we face the tough realities head on.
So not ignoring the bad stuff, but finding a way to move forward with hope anyway.
Exactly. He even quotes this writer, Georges Bernanos, who said, "Only those are capable of hope who have had the courage to despair of the illusions and lies in which they once found security, which they falsely mistook for hope. Hope is a risk that must be taken. It is the risk of risks."
Whoa. So hope requires courage. It's not passive. It's something we actively choose.
Right. It's not just going to happen to you. It's a choice you make to cultivate it.
I love that quote. But if hope is this active choice, this risk we're taking, how do we actually do that? Cultivate it in our lives, I mean, especially with all the negativity swirling around us.
The Pope gets really practical about this, draws inspiration from, you might not expect this, the Bible, 1 Peter specifically.
Okay, interesting.
He boils it down to 3 key messages, like a guide on how to communicate hope in a world that often feels hopeless.
Okay, I'm listening. Hit me with message number 1.
Message 1, in your hearts, sanctify Christ as Lord.
Okay, that sounds,
a bit religious.
Yeah, but I'm guessing there's a broader application here.
Absolutely. The core idea is that real hope, lasting hope, it's got to be rooted in something deeper than just, fleeting emotions or wishful thinking.
Right.
For Christians, that grounding is their faith.
Right, so even if someone's not religious, they could still apply this.
Totally. It's about finding that source of strength and purpose, something that goes beyond the daily ups and downs, gives you perspective, helps you face challenges with resilience.
That resonates. What's message number 2?
All right, number 2. Always be ready to make your defense to anyone who demands from you and accounting for the hope that is in you.
So not just feeling hopeful, but being able to explain why?
Exactly. Articulate it, share it with others, even when it's tough. And it's not about preaching or converting anyone. It's more about,
living it.
Living it, letting your actions speak louder than words, inspiring others to have questions, to see things maybe a little differently.
I like that. Okay, on to message 3. What's the Pope's final bit of wisdom here.
This one's crucial. Yet do it with gentleness and reverence.
Gentleness.
Yeah, especially when you disagree.
Right. Which, let's be honest, can be so hard. Online, particularly. It's easy to get sucked into those heated exchanges.
Oh, for sure. But even in those heated moments, debates, disagreements, we can choose to communicate in a way that builds understanding, not division.
Like that story of Jesus and the disciples on the road to Emmaus, right?
Yeah, good example. He didn't yell at them for doubting. He listened patiently, helped them see things from a new perspective.
Gentleness doesn't equal weakness.
Not at all. It takes real strength to respond with empathy when someone's challenging you.
So, big picture here. The Pope's calling for a pretty big shift in how we communicate, right? Both personally and as a whole society. Sounds like he's dreaming of a world where communication builds bridges, not walls.
He is a world where it fosters empathy, inspires action, helps us find common ground, not just highlight our differences. Think about it. The news, social media, even just talking to family.
They're friends.
Right. How often are we really trying to understand? Find that common ground.
Feels like it's more about proving our own point or shutting down the other side.
Exhausting, isn't it?
Totally. So what would it actually look like to embody this kind of communication, this communication of hope?
Well, it starts small, being mindful of how we interact, online and offline.
Choosing our words carefully, really listening, not just waiting to talk. Remembering everyone has a story.
All of that. It's about seeking to understand, not to judge. Choosing hope over fear, even when it's hard.
And the Pope's clear. This isn't a solo mission. He wants collective action, a shared commitment to building a more hopeful world through our communication, our actions, everything.
He even points to the Jubilee year as a symbol of this.
With its focus on mercy, forgiveness, starting fresh.
Powerful reminder that we're all in this together. Even small acts of kindness, compassion, those can have a ripple effect. Spreading hope, understanding.
Throughout our communities and beyond.
That's a good point, right? We're all connected in this.
Absolutely. And the Pope, he doesn't stop there. He actually offers some really practical advice for dealing with this digital age we're in, especially when it comes to protecting our own inner peace.
Oh, that's something I think we could all use a little more of these days. Inner peace.
Yeah.
With all the noise out there.
Right. It's under constant assault, it feels like.
It does. And the Pope, he talks about this idea of caring for the heart.
Caring for the heart.
Yeah, cultivating an inner life, one that can actually withstand this onslaught of information and negativity that's constantly bombarding us.
Okay, I like the sound of that, but what does caring for the heart actually look like, practically speaking?
He gives some real concrete tips. Things like, well, speaking to the heart, resisting those knee-jerk reactions.
Oh yeah, those knee-jerk reactions can get you in trouble.
Big time. Cultivating gentleness. And, this is a big one, looking for those glimmers of goodness that inspire hope.
I like that. Sounds good in theory. But honestly, sometimes the world feels so chaotic, it's hard to find those glimmers.
I hear you. But the Pope, he assures us they're there. He even leaves us with this beautiful image. The slender but resistant flower of trust that blossoms, even in unexpected places.
It's like even in the darkest times, even when things seem divided and chaotic, hope can still take root and grow.
Exactly. And that brings us back to his main point. He's calling for a kind of communication that doesn't shy away from the tough stuff, the difficult realities.
He ages with them, but with hope.
Yes. Honestly, hopefully.
Okay, so let's dive into what that looks like in practice. You mentioned those practical tips for caring for the heart, right? Tell me more about those. I'm really curious.
One of the key things he emphasizes, and we touched on this a bit already, is resisting those knee-jerk reactions, especially online. Things move so fast. It's so inflammatory.
Oh, tell me about it. I've definitely been guilty of firing off a quick response, without really thinking it through.
We all have. It's human nature. But the Pope, he encourages us to just take a breath, pause before reacting, and consider our words carefully.
Easier said than done sometimes.
It is. But he reminds us that gentleness, true gentleness, it's not weakness. It's a sign of strength.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people see gentleness as being passive, or letting people walk all over you.
Right. But the Pope's saying it's actually the opposite.
So it's about choosing to engage with people respectfully, even when you disagree.
Yes. And that's so important, especially online, where it's so easy to hide behind Anonymous profiles and say things you'd never say to someone's face.
Yeah, it's like the internet can bring out the worst in some people sometimes.
It can. But the Pope's reminding us that there are real human beings on the other side of those screens, with feelings, experiences.
Their own stories.
Exactly. He challenges us to remember that even in the digital world, our words have power. And we need to use that power responsibly.
Okay, so resisting those knee-jerk reactions, what else? What other tips does he give for caring for the heart?
Another big one is being mindful of the information we consume. He talks about the importance of seeking out sources that actually nourish our minds and spirits, not just add to the noise and negativity.
Right, but that can feel overwhelming too. There's so much information out there. How do we even know what to trust?
It's tough, I get it. The Pope suggests being discerning, choosing your sources carefully, being wary of anything that relies on, sensationalism or manipulation, just to grab your attention.
So basically doing your own research, not just accepting everything at face value.
Exactly. Critical thinking skills are essential these days.
They really are.
And it's okay to step away sometimes too, from that constant stream of information. Taking breaks from social media, the news.
The digital detox every now and then.
It can be so restorative for your mental and emotional well-being.
I think a lot of us could benefit from that. It's easy to get sucked into the 24/7 news cycle, feeling like you have to be plugged in all the time. But stepping back can give you that space to reflect, reconnect with yourself, the things that really matter.
Yeah. The Pope actually encourages us to cultivate silence in our lives. He sees it as essential. It creates the space for listening, not just to the world around us, but also to, the whispers of our own hearts.
I love that. Silence for listening, creating space for that in a world that's so loud.
It's a powerful practice. So we've talked about resisting those knee-jerk reactions, being mindful of the information we consume, and cultivating silence. Anything else?
Yeah, are there any other practical tips for caring for the heart that the Pope offers?
He also talks about nurturing our inner lives through practices like prayer, meditation,
Spending time in nature.
all of those things. They can bring such a sense of peace, grounding.
Connecting with something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also emphasizes the importance of community, that we're not meant to go through life alone.
We need each other.
Yes. For support, encouragement, love, finding those people who lift you up, challenge you to be your best self.
Your tribe, the people you can be real with.
Right. Share your joys, your sorrows, the people who remind you of your shared humanity.
Love that. Now, beyond those individual practices, the Pope, he also talks about something really interesting. Speaking to the heart when we communicate with others.
It's about going beyond just conveying information.
Connecting on a deeper level.
Yes. Appealing to people's emotions, their values, their aspirations.
So it's not just what you say, but how you say it. Speaking with authenticity, with empathy.
Exactly. And this goes back to that idea of gentleness and reverence we talked about before. Approaching every interaction with kindness, respect, even when you disagree.
Which can be tough, especially when you're passionate about something.
For sure. But it can make such a difference in the tone of the conversation, the outcome. It really can. The Pope believes that by speaking to the heart, we can tap into that shared sense of humanity and create connections that go beyond our differences.
Finding common ground, even when it seems impossible.
I love that. So we've covered caring for our own hearts, speaking to the hearts of others. But the Pope also talks about this idea of hoping together. What does he mean by that? He's acknowledging that hope, it's not just a personal feeling, it's a communal experience. We need each other to sustain hope, especially when things are tough.
So it's like sharing our stories of hope, supporting each other in our struggles.
Exactly. He believes that doing that, it creates a collective force for good in the world.
It's like that saying, a burden shared is a burden halved. But with hope, it's more like it's being multiplied.
Love that. And it makes me think about the power of storytelling. We've talked about the Pope's use of imagery, the razors, the flower. He really gets how stories can connect with people on a deeper level.
Totally. And he actually talks about that directly. The power of stories to make complex issues more relatable, more understandable.
He encourages communicators to seek out and share stories of hope, even in the midst of suffering, despair.
Finding those glimmers of light in the darkness.
Yes, those examples of resilience, compassion, that remind us that the human spirit, it can endure, even thrive.
So it's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about acknowledging the difficulties, but choosing to focus on the good, the things that give us hope.
Yes. And the Pope reminds us we all have a role to play in this, in cultivating hope. It's not something that just happens. It's a choice. We nurture it through our thoughts, our words, our actions.
It's amazing, right, how the Pope brings it all together. It's deeply spiritual, but then he gives us these really practical, actionable steps.
Right. It's not just lofty ideals. He actually gives us tools to put these ideas into practice in our daily lives.
So let's open up that toolkit a bit. What are some of the specific things he suggests to be more hopeful, communicate more effectively, all that?
Well, he really hammers on this point, and we've talked about it some already, but resisting those knee-jerk reactions, especially online, where it's so easy to get caught up in the outrage of it all.
Oh, I know. You see a headline or a comment, and you're just ready to fire back.
Right. And before you know it, you've posted something you regret, or gotten into this whole argument that just spirals.
Been there. The Pope encourages us to take a breath,
That pause. It's so important.
Choosing your words carefully. Remembering there's a real person on the other side.
He says gentleness is not weakness, it's strength.
I like that. Because I think a lot of times people see gentleness as passive, right? Like you're letting people walk all over you.
Yeah, but the Pope's saying it's the opposite.
It's about engaging respectfully, even when you disagree.
Absolutely. And that's especially important online, where it's easy to hide behind anonymity, say things you would never say to someone's face.
True. It's like the internet gives people permission to be, well, not their best selves.
Sometimes. But the Pope reminds us, even online, our words have power. We got to use that power responsibly.
So, step one, resist those knee-jerk reactions. What else?
Being intentional about the information we consume. Seek out sources that nourish you, lift you up.
Instead of just adding to the noise and negativity.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to unplug sometimes. From the news, social media, all of it.
Take a break.
Your mind and spirit will thank you for it.
It's like a mental cleanse.
It can be. And finally, the Pope encourages us to make an effort to cultivate hope in our own lives.
How do we do that?
Look for those glimmers of goodness. Practice gratitude. Spend time in nature. Connect with people you love.
Do things that bring you joy.
All of it. Nurturing your inner life just as much as you nurture your outer life.
Finding that balance.
And remember, hope is contagious. When you choose hope, when you communicate with gentleness, empathy, you inspire others to do the same.
It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly. Creating positive change.
Yeah.
In our communities, in the world.
That's a powerful thought. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Pope's message, I want to leave you with this. What's one thing you can do today to bring more hope, more gentleness into your own communication?
Maybe reach out to someone you haven't talked to in a while. Offer a kind word to a stranger. Take a moment to just appreciate the beauty around you.
Whatever it is, remember, even small acts can have a big impact. And by choosing hope, we're choosing to believe in the possibility of a better future. For ourselves and for the world. So go out there, be communicators of hope, spread that kindness, empathy, understanding, one interaction at a time.